Let's talk about 50 Shades of Grey. While I haven't seen it, obviously, and I haven't read it, and while I normally strongly discourage uninformed opinions, I have a couple of opinions. Setting aside the fact that it misrepresents BDSM relationships. Setting aside the fact that it glorifies an abusive relationship. Setting aside that it is yet another example of a bland female heroine with little to no agency or personality, defining herself based on the inexplicable approval of a powerful male character. Masquerading as a female empowerment story, nonetheless. My first complaint about 50 Shades of Grey is it is a step forward in this narrative that entertainment targeted at female audiences will inherently be shitty. Lifetime is known by most people for two things: its slogan, television for women, and its comically awful original movies. I also personally know it for showing reruns of Unsolved Mysteries, but that's beside the point. But Lifetime is a good microcosm for how female-oriented programming is viewed by the general public, as is its promotional material for Bridesmaids, which put in big pink letters, quote, "Chick flicks don't have to suck," exclamation point. It's just an assumption on everybody's part that a movie with female protagonists or targeted at female audiences will be bad, solely because it has female protagonists. And this idea isn't isolated to romantic comedies, it trickles into award season. 4 out of the 5 Best Actor nominees are from movies that were also nominated for Best Picture, compared to only 1 out of 5 Best Actress nominees, even though it should be 2. Again, it's indicative of an overall trend that female-centered movies aren't as good, or at least are perceived that way. And unfortunately, both 50 Shades of Grey and its source material are both immensely popular among women, and are both aggressively bad storytelling. Not only are the Twilight adaptations poorly written and poorly acted,
it's a wolf thing.
One literary critic wrote that 50 Shades of Grey made Twilight's prose look like War and Peace. So they're just fuel for people who believe that women have poor taste and that women's entertainment will suck on principle, pretty much guaranteeing more shitty future projects targeted at women, because it won't get better until we demand better. But that's not my biggest complaint about the movie, even before seeing it. 50 Shades of Grey stands as a giant missed opportunity to prove the commercial viability of the NC-17 rating. Setting aside the MPAA's ridiculous rating system, which you can learn all about in the documentary This Film Is Not Yet Rated. Setting aside the fact that the MPAA is notorious for inexplicably giving sex and nudity a harsher rating and violence a lower rating. The NC-17 rating, which means no one 17 or under will be admitted, regardless of whether or not they're with a parent, is a box office nightmare. The highest grossing NC-17 movie of all time only grossed $20 million, and honestly, it was a miracle it grossed that much. The second highest of all time grossed $11 million, and the third highest of all time only grossed $5 million. And I'll even put an asterisk next to those last two, because they were both released the same year the NC-17 rating was introduced, so they might have slid in before it became too taboo. Some theaters not only refuse to show NC-17 movies, they refuse to advertise for NC-17 movies. Studios know this, and they'll fight the MPAA tooth and nail to avoid the NC-17 rating. And if they can't get it down to an R on appeal, they'll usually just release the movie unrated rather than take the kiss of death NC-17. And yet here you have a porn novel that for some reason unbeknownst to me sold like lemonade in the desert. And I'm not puritanically looking down on it, I'm just saying that of the vast amounts of literotica that exists, I have no clue why this of all things became as popular as it did. But make no mistake about what 50 Shades of Grey is. Universal Studios, who've owned the movie rights since 2012, actually sued the porn company Smash Productions to keep them from releasing a 50 Shades of Grey porn parody movie. Universal's lawsuit stated, and I'm not making this up, that the porno movie was not in fact a parody and was in fact a direct adaptation of the story that Universal owned the rights to. Tens of millions of people have read this and know exactly what it is. No one's gonna be shocked by a sexually explicit movie. And if you're ever guaranteed a hit at the box office, it's this. I mean, 100 million copies of the book have been sold. These 3 books have sold more copies since 2011 than Ian Fleming's 14 James Bond books have sold since 1953. By the way, the average James Bond movie grosses $246 million at the box office. Even if only 10% of the people who read the book go see the movie, that's still a $100 million box office. And that's not even counting the people who go see it without having read the book. And instead, they chose to water down the graphic nature of the book in order to get the R rating, even though the graphic nature was the only reason it sold in the first place, because it definitely wasn't the skill of the writer or the originality of the characters. So instead of a record-shattering, pioneering, historical NC-17 movie, I'm sure we're gonna get a bland, dull, perfectly forgettable R-rated romance. Way to go, guys.